I'm Jackie Whittemore, and I'm so excited to share with you the topic of the clinical lit search. Having been in private practice before I came back to specialize, I appreciate more than many how important it is to be able to execute a thorough, effective lit search that is also efficient and able to be accomplished outside of the paywall of academia. Before we get started talking about that, I did want to take a minute for straight talk. I know many of you may be worried about how you can be a good doctor, and what if you don't learn it all? It's a very different experience trying to learn clinical medicine remotely. And I think that those are very reasonable worries and concerns, though I think that all of us institutions have worked really hard to pull together to find great ways to make sure you are still equipped with the resources you need. It may not be a great comfort to you, but I thought you might like to know that I was terrified too. This is a picture of me shortly after I entered private practice 20 years ago with a patient of mine named Sally. And I was really scared. Sally had a problem I didn't understand and I didn't remember us even talking about. And I thought, well, if I don't even know this right out of school, what are all the other things I won't know? And that's just part of it. That's part of the gig. I know it is a little more scary right now from being remote in your learning, but the reality is that even if you're on the clinic floor all of the time, there are still things you are not going to know at the end. There will still be things you haven't seen. And the great news is this isn't going to influence whether you can be an amazing doctor. So to help get your brain clear, I'm going to recommend that you take a minute to jot down your worries on a scratch piece of paper. This is not something to turn in. This is not something that you need to share with the group if you don't want to, if you're doing this in a group setting. But take a minute to get those things out of your head and onto paper, and then if it were me, I would take that paper and put a little peanut butter on it and feed it to my dog, because they don't have power over you. The worries only have power if you let them. Once you've done that, come on back and let's talk a little bit more about how to be an amazing doctor. Okay, well, in 20 years of practice, I have noted that there are 3 keys to excellence. I see this in excellent mentors. I see this in excellent peers. I see this in students that have gone to surpass me in all facets of their performance. And those 3 things are consistent across the whole lot. The first thing is maintaining motivation. Being a great doctor requires lifelong learning, and being a lifelong learner means you have to remain really geeked about it, about knowing everything that's out there that you need to know for your patients. So motivation, I think, can be fed in 2 ways. The first one is remembering that we have the best job on earth. Where else can you cuddle up with your patients and give them hugs and kisses? Where else can you have a client bring in kittens for you to play with just because you've had a bad week? When that isn't enough, we also have to remember that we fed the other. And so what is the other? For me, the other is comprised of 3 things. The first one is fun. It is really important if you want to do a great job as a doc that you make time for pie, or you make time for hiking, or you make time for visiting with friends, or learning a new skill, or learning a new language, or going for a hike. All of these things feed one into the other to fuel your creativity, to give you the energy to see cases in new ways and to look for different solutions. The second thing for me is faith. And faith, in my case, is something that I feed through a sweet little church that I belong to called Lake Hills Presbyterian. And right now we're having all of our church online. We're Zooming our Sunday school, and we're making it work. Everybody's pulling together and doing it. And we are all able to root down into that faith as a foundation for rough times like this. Someone else's faith may not be religious. Their faith may be in nature, it may be in science, and that's okay. But you want to find the things that feed your faith and that help you to have a strong foundation for times of crisis. If you're not exactly sure where that is, or you need a little more bolstering, you're welcome to join us at my church. And finally, it's going to be family. This is a picture of life right now in my house. I live in a 1,500 square foot house on a very small lot with my husband, our 5-year-old, and 3 dogs and 2 cats. But right now, because of social distancing concerns and COVID concerns, my parents also live with us. We moved them in with us to decrease exposure. That means we have 4 adults working full-time, mostly remotely, and 1 5-year-old who's now being homeschooled by those 4 adults, along with 4 fur beasts in 1,500 square feet. I wouldn't have it any other way. Your family may be fur, your family may be blood, your family may be people that are not related to you at all. I have a lot of really strong family in the vet school, and I have family in my church. So finding what your family is, wherever your family is, and feeding that is going to be important in order to maintain excellence as a veterinarian. The second thing that I have found is universal is an ability to know what to call it. And this is something I learned from Dr. Janet Aldrich, who one of my vet school classmates has described as one of the most respected veterinarians in the world. And Dr. Aldrich was a criticalist, and she taught me many amazing things, but the one for which I will never be able to repay her was teaching me the 4 questions of a problem, or the 4 rules. And so I'm going to share those with you. The first rule is to ask yourself, is this thing, whatever it is, affecting the animal's well-being or the owner's perception of the animal's well-being? If it's not affecting the animal's well-being, then it really isn't a problem, even if it is abnormal. And a great example is a little dog named Flipper, who I saw for liver enzyme elevations. Well, Flipper got her name because she was missing most of one of her legs. She had a congenital anomaly and was missing part of her leg. But that wasn't affecting her well-being. She was happy as a clam and really loved to use it to flip in the air to show you how much she loved you, which is how she got her name. So her leg is not going to be a problem because it wasn't affecting her well-being. The other thing is it something you can address? Even if she had that leg and then it had to be amputated, I can't put it back. And so if I can't put it back, being 3-legged is not something that's going to hit on my problem list. If I have something that is affecting the animal's well-being or the owner's perception of the animal's well-being, which is why tapeworms can be an emergency in the middle of the night, and it's something that can be addressed, then I get to ask myself 2 more questions. Is it true? So, am I sure that I really have a true name for the problem? If I have a dachshund that comes in down, the top 99 differentials might be disc, but the 100th differential might be intramedullary neoplasia. And so it's important that I not say that the dog has the problem of disc. It can have a problem of T3 to L3 myelopathy until I have made the diagnosis. Otherwise, I am not going to have the appropriate conversation with the owners about informed consent, and we are not going to be prepared for that rare case where things are different. That said, it needs to be at the highest level of understanding. I have to make sure I can see the forest for the trees. So if I have a dog that has got increased BUN, increased creatinine, isostenuria, pyuria, and a positive lepto-PCR, then I don't have 4 problems. I have 1 problem of leptospirosis. Keeping them separate increases the likelihood that I'm going to do tests that I don't need to do, administer treatments I might not need to do, and or forget something really important that I do need to do, like using adequate personal protective equipment. So I need to make sure the problem is true, but also at the highest level of understanding. Finally, it's going to be important that I know where to find it. This is the last thing that sets apart a really excellent veterinarian. They don't have to have the answers, they have to know where to find them. And that's going to be what the meat of this talk is about. Now, did you notice that none of these characteristics of an excellent veterinarian is involved in knowing it all, or having learned it all, or being the best at something? All of these are things that are characteristics or skills that can be cultivated remotely. So with that, we're going to stop. We need to make sure we are good at number 2 in order to know how to find information. If you don't know what to call it, you don't know where to find it. So our first application break is I would like for you, whether as a group or individually using an assigned case, to review past medical records, history, and physical examination findings. After you've been through these things carefully, I would like you to make a list of pertinent findings, both normal and abnormal. Normal findings often are the linchpin to a case. Knowing that cholesterol is normal and globulins are normal in a dog with hypoalbuminemia is going to push you away from gut disease. Knowing that heart rate is normal in a dog that is dehydrated is going to also change your index of suspicion or your worries. You might be then more worried about, hyperkalemia causing an inappropriate bradycardia if you have an inappropriate response to dehydration. Once you have that list, I would like you to winnow it to create a list of clinical abnormalities. So that sodium that's 2 points low, or that anion gap that's 0.1 high, those things are going to drop off of the list because they're not clinical abnormalities. Once you've got this list fully winnowed down, then you're going to take it to generate a problem list for the patient. The big work on this is not making the list. It is justifying your decisions on when to lump things and when to split them. After doing all of these things, even if you're working in a group right now, you're going to have to set aside some time afterwards for working on your own, because the last part of this work is to create a referral document for your case. This referral document is what you would be sending in if you were the one sending the patient to see you. So you should have a very brief version of the history that's highlighting the high points, the pertinent physical exam findings, the problem list, your thoughts on the differentials, and other items, as well as what you are hoping to get out of the referral. There is more detail on what is involved in this document in your worksheet associated with this talk. This is a very, very important part of being an excellent veterinarian, and a very, very important part of taking good care of your patients. If you do not provide a good summary document, it increases the likelihood that tests will be repeated unnecessarily, wasting clients' money and putting patients through procedures they might not need because it's too difficult to get through or easy to miss things that are hiding in a 100-page medical record. It also is going to really influence the quality of communications with the owner and quality of follow-through with you after. So you want to be able to do a good job on this. Once you have done all of these things, then it's time to search like a ninja. But there is one last thing that we kind of need to go over before we know how to approach the search and what the limitations are going to be. And that is the phenomenon of Tannstaffel. Tannstaffel is the name my late father gave to his boat, and it stands for "There ain't no such thing as a free lunch." This is equally true in the research world as it is in the boating world. Research papers have to be published, and publication costs money. It costs money because you have to maintain the website, you have to have indexing, it costs money to get things put into PubMed. There's a lot of money involved in typesetting and so on and so forth. The list is endless. So it has to be financed somehow. And just like if we think about roads, publications can be financed in one of two ways. It can be financed using toll roads. So an example of a toll road is going to be journals that are funded by organizations. So journal membership fees or organization membership fees are used to pay for the journal. And a good example is going to be JAVMA, which is the journal of the AVMA, or JFMS, which is the Journal of the Feline Medicine and Surgery Group. The way this works is that the organization members have paid for the journal, and so that content belongs to them and they have access to it through electronic means or paper means. But people who are not part of the organization do not have that same access. If they would like to have access to the material, they are going to have to either pay an individual article charge, which is a one-time fee. It can range anywhere from $30 up to over $100, or they can contact an author on the paper to request that they be sent a copy, or what used to be called a reprint. This can be done by old school methods like sending a letter, but more commonly is handled either through email or certain reprint access servers, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. Now, the other way that articles can be funded or published are going to be freeways. Just like you can have toll roads, you can have freeways. Freeways are underwritten by the government. or some other group. So freeways, when we think of roads, freeways are paid for with your tax dollars, so everybody gets to drive on them. Toll roads were built with private funds, and so you have to pay a toll to pay it back. So the way freeways work in the publishing world is that articles are published using funds from the investigator. So the investigator pays the article processing charges, and these can vary widely among the different journals. PeerJ, for example, which is a really excellent open access, open data journal, has a very modest article processing charge of about $1,000. In contrast, I had a paper published recently in Gut Microbes, which is also open access and ended up costing between $5,000 and $6,000. This is a problem for investigators, especially in veterinary medicine, because funding for their projects generally is not going to be robust enough to be able to cover article processing charges. That means that investigators who really think that it's important that their material be available anybody, anywhere, anytime, have to be really resourceful in coming up with ways to fund APCs. There are a couple of journals that employ a fusion model, and a good example of this is the Journal of Veterinary Internal Medicine. It is the journal of the American College of Veterinary Internal Medicine, and the college underwrites the journal, but we felt that it was very important that anybody, anywhere, anytime be able to access it. And so the way we've done that is that if somebody who is not a member of the ACVIM wishes to publish in the journal, they pay one APC charge, which is higher. But if somebody who is a member in the ACVIM wishes to publish an article and has the article accepted for publication, they pay a lower charge, with the difference covered by the organization. This is a really great way in order to have benefits still be afforded to the membership, but at the same time make sure that scientific data, which is important for case management and important for scientific progress, to be available to everyone. Okay, that is going to influence how you can get what you can get. And you may already have experienced this, the difference between these things if you have done a search from your house. If you go into a search website from your house, you may run into that individual article charge, but it might be if you did the same search on campus that you did not. And the reason is that the library at your university may have a contract with a variety of journals to get them all for free per se. And so you wouldn't get hit with that charge if you were coming in, logging in through campus. Now, unfortunately, once you are out, you are not going to have that same access, and so you have to know ways to work within the system and around the system. So the first thing we're going to talk about when we talk about searching is going to be using PubMed Central. This is my favorite search engine. Everybody has things they prefer. Some people prefer CAB, and if you do a lot of agricultural work, you may find that you get a lot out of CAB abstracts, because there are a lot of things that are livestock or farming related that may be in CAB but not indexed for PubMed. But in my field, in small animal internal medicine, what I want generally is in PubMed Central, and I find that the search engine and the additional features are much more robust. Other things we're going to talk about are Google and Google Scholar. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about ResearchGate, and we'll talk a little bit about Veterinary Information Network, or VIN. So with this, we're going to hop over from PowerPoint into Safari. And we're going to start over here. This is the old PubMed. It's the one that I am more familiar with and comfortable. They have a new one. The new one is prettier and shinier and has additional features or improvements to the interface. I will probably end up there originally, but in order to be efficient with this talk, we're going to stay on this side. I can show it to you though really quickly. You can see it looks more beautiful, but you'll notice all the same categories that are here are here. So PubMed is a function of the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, the National Library of Medicine. What this means is that PubMed is created using federal taxpayer dollars, and so as a result, you have already paid for it, and additional access to you is free. Anything that is in PubMed is yours. Not only is anything in PubMed yours, but you can create your own PubMed account, which you are going to do. and it will be very helpful to you. So when we are searching in PubMed, there are a couple of really important things to understand. And the first one is how it searches. So if I search in PubMed, and let's see what we can search for. Let's search for blastomycosis, because I had a case of this I was consulted on last week. If I put in blastomycosis, it comes up with 3,058 articles. But what you can see is when I search blastomycosis, it's highlighting or by bolding each of those where blastomycosis appears. And so where it is searching, if we change what it looks like, so instead of summary, which is this view, let's have it give us an abstract. It's hopefully loading. Here it goes. And now we can see the abstract. What it can look in when it does a PubMed search is it can search the title, it can search the abstract, it can search the author list. Sometimes there's author information. It can search the author list. And then it searches something you cannot see right here, which is keywords provided by the author. And so that's it. If they talk about something somewhere in the discussion, but it's not in the abstract, title, or keywords, it's not going to get found in PubMed. And the whole point of using the keyword field is you don't use the keyword field to highlight the top findings. See, it's not like your take-home points of the article. Keywords should be used to highlight or include words that someone might use to search for your article that are not in the title or the abstract. And so that is all that can be searched. And so what that means is there could be a very relevant article to you that you will not find using this format because that information is not available for search. Okay, so that's the first thing. And where that comes up, a good example, is that this one here, if we look, it says blastomycosis, but it also says blastomyces dermatitis. This one doesn't have an abstract, and so anything that was indexed, so anything that is in that abstract is not going to show up. And this one talks about blastomycosis, and that's all it talks about. So we're going to set this one aside for a minute. I want to show you something here. So I'm going to put it in a new tab. And then, right now you can see I have it sorted by most recent, and I have it set, because we're logged in as me, for an automatic of 200 per page. The normal automatic hit is between 10 and 20, but I want to go fast, so I set it for 200, so I always log in first so I get what I want. The other thing is these are search filters that I like to apply all the time, and so I can't read probably the ones that are in the other languages from English, with a little bit of exception for some French and Spanish. So I can apply this so that I'm not seeing the ones that are Russian, I'm not seeing the ones that are Swedish. I'm going to cut out a lot of things when I'm scrolling so that I'm not wasting time. I can also say, I need things I can get to without being behind a paywall. So what can I get to that's free full text? But I'm going to show you some hacks around it, so I don't want you to start there. Now, remember I said I want to set this guy aside and show you something? So if we come over here, what if they didn't use the term blastomycosis in the title or the abstract, but they instead talked about blastomyces? If they talked about blastomyces instead, then it may not come up here unless it's in a keyword. And so this one, we do not see blastomyces here. It is coming up on the search, however, and that's because they use the term blastomyces as one of their keywords. But there may be other things that are not. And so in order to make sure that we catch both of them, the articles that talk about blastomyces and the articles that talk about blastomycosis, what I can do, because this brings up 1552, is I can do this, and I can put an asterisk, which is called a wildcard. And then it should find all of the articles for either. And that will bring up more cases that are more possible hits for me that I can winnow down. Now, I may not want to look at all of them. I know I don't want to look at ones that are going to be in, say, mice. or rats. And what I really like is maybe dog or cat. So I'm going to tell it that these go together. And I'm going to tell it that these go together. It knows how to do this on the back side, but this is how I do it. Because then I get what I want. Boom! That took me down to 282 articles. 278 of them are in English. Now that I have the 278 that are in English, then because that gives me best odds of reading them, then I can sort them by most recent. I can also sort by best match. It didn't like that. Oops. Sometimes you break things. But I can sort it in all sorts of different ways. Oh, here's best match right here. Apologies. So it doesn't think there's better matches, so even though it's got it here, it's doing some sort of weird glitch. I apologize. Live TV, people. So what I can do from here is then I can say, okay, well now I've got it down to 278. Which are the ones that are going to be most relevant to me, and so, or might have relevance to me. So, oh, this one here, right? So I'm going to click that. What else do I really? I'm not worrying about a case of laryngeal blastomycosis, but that's very cool. I can't wait to read that. That's came out 13 days ago. Very exciting. I'm looking forward to that. I've got yet another new differential. Let's see, I'm interested in, let's see, that one. Oh, I want to make sure that my treatment's going to work. So I'm going to look at that. Oh, I want to know if I should give steroids, so I'm going to look at that. I want to look at that a little more. Red fox, probably not in this case. I have seen this cranial caval syndrome with blastomyces granuloma. I've seen it alone, not with carcinoma, but I've seen it alone, so that's pretty cool. Oh, do I need to worry about anticoagulants? Let's grab that. Here's another one that's sort of a broader study, so I care about that. And then, oh, should I be using serum or urine EIAs to mark clinical remission? And what do I do if it never, ever, ever goes negative? So now I know those are the ones I'm going to care about. And so I'm going to say, I want to just look at those guys. So let's take those, and I can do this two ways, I think. It depends whether you're in the new system or the old system. So I selected those 7, so now I said abstract, so now it's showing me the abstracts for those 7. And then I can say, oh, yeah, it turns out I really don't care about this vitamin D thing because that's not helpful for management, but this one really is because it's telling me about prevalent stuff that's important. This one says that, oh, I don't need to read this article in full because they're not any different, and because I happen to know that Papich does really good research. The more you read, the more you're going to know certain names equal really good research, in which case a lot of times you can get what you need from the abstract. That's not always true, though. And then I say, okay, well, no, I still want that one. And then I can delete some. So I can say, I just want to keep these ones, or I want to delete those ones. And then I can do a couple things with them. I can, I could open them in individual tabs, but I can't because, gosh, Mrs. Brown is ready in the room, and so I'm going to need to move on and come back to this later. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to get to it in 2 hours at lunch, so I'm just going to put them on my clipboard. And they're going to stay there on the clipboard for 8 hours, and then they're going to be auto-purged. So if I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure, but my boss is having to be home and sheltering, so maybe I should take those ones that are really relevant and I should do something else with them. So I could send them to an email to myself, or maybe someone's working at home and they ask me to take a look, and so I could email them to the person who asked for help. I just want to save them so I can look at them later, so I can put them in a collection. And I have a bunch of collections I'll show you, so I could add those to a collection, either a new one or its own. I have lots of ways that I can approach this in order to come back to this information later. And I can decide what format I want to send it in. Do I want to send it in the summary format? Do I want to send it with the abstract? And I can send it however I want, so I can do it later. The other thing I can do is I found this one, and gosh, this was the one that was really helpful. This is the one I really needed to know more about. So, and the other ones didn't seem quite right. Like, let's say I didn't have quite the right search term, or I couldn't figure out why I was missing some. Then once I've got this guy up here, I can go over here to similar articles, and I can say, I want to see review articles that you think it's similar, that PubMed thinks is similar, or I want to see anything that PubMed thinks is similar to this article. Some of them are not going to relate at all, but some of them may be really helpful. And so I say, oh, I didn't know about that one that predated it. I'm going to go ahead and grab that. I'm going to grab whatever it may be. And so, and here I can try this to weed out humans. What I can tell you is it doesn't work very well because a lot of cell culture studies are not classified under human. So it doesn't necessarily immediately limit you to animals. But I can go in here and I can go, oh, the search term I should have been using is, and then I can take that search term and go back and start a new search with it to get more information. Now, one of the most powerful things you can do is to create your own account. And so I have an account, and you can have an account. It is free, and you're going to create one. And so what are you going to do? Well, once you have an account, you can do all sorts of really cool things. These are things that I've searched for in the past. So you did a search, you found the perfect article, you got pulled away because there was a chihuahua coming in with pulmonary edema, so you didn't even have time to put something on your clipboard because it ruptured a chordae. So you can go back to your recent activity and find how you found it. So you can find the article. It can make this bigger. I can keep collections of things like, wow, we see so much silicosis in horses out here. I want to know anything new that comes out of silicosis because I'm fed up. Then you could create a collection and hold on to all those articles here where you're saving them over time. These are all things that I have had reason to know. So here's one that we can talk about a little more on ARDS. And we'll go ahead and just pop that bad boy open so when we get a chance. And then the last thing is, let's say that silicosis thing, I can save the articles I really care about here as I'm finding them. But I want to know when there's something new. Anytime something new comes out about silicosis, I want to know. So I'm going to create a search, and I'm going to add all the little words, my Boolean search terms that I need to not get all of that annoying stuff that I was getting. So if I go here, this is one where I really want to see things on cats. Cats with hepatobiliary disease. So what we can see is this is my search. So it's getting anything that's under hepatic, like hepatic lipidosis, and anything under hepato, like hepatotoxicity or hepatopathy. And I want to make sure I get cholecystitis or cholangitis. And so I've got biliary or gallbladder without a space, or cholecystitis. Probably should have chole, or you could do chol with a wild card for cholangitis, but it's going to be so short that I think you're going to run into the issue of only the first 600 variations. And over time, I've learned that even though I say cat, that doesn't mean I'm not going to get guinea pig or mouse or zebrafish. And so I can put in all the things I don't want. And it's not going to work perfectly. I'm still going to get stuff that isn't what I care about. But I'm going to really cut it way down. So we can see here this is 1,137 results. If I just did... Don't ask me why I have biliary twice. I was really worried about biliary, I guess. So if we 11's 37 versus 3762. So adding all of those nots, ors, just took 2,000 of the articles away. Over 2/3 of the articles were cut by adding that. So once I've got that, then two things happen. I can set it so that anytime something new comes out, it emails me the new information. I can set it to do that on a daily basis, a weekly basis, or a monthly basis. It varies based on my search. I can then take that search and use it as a starter search for something else. So I can go in there and I can say, I'm having a lot of trouble because the silicosis is giving me all the same stuff I don't care about. So I want to make sure that I've got, and I'm sure it doesn't have that name anymore, but that's okay, and horse, and then I can apply that, and maybe that'll cut me down to a whole bunch less. So See, so I learned, whoa, there's only 5 items. I know there's not only 5 items on this in horses. There's something very wrong. So what am I missing? So I can go and command, and I can open a new tab. And then I can go into my related articles and see all and figure out, since I know nothing about horses anymore, what other terms I should be using. Oh, I should be using pneumoconiosis. So now what if I do pneumoconiosis and horse? I don't know if you need to capitalize your Boolean search terms, but it helps me. I can keep track of my strings. That got me up to 22. So maybe I need to expand it some more. But see, that's going to help me to find my way to the right thing. This one's got brackets around it. That means it's not in English. And here we go, it's German. So I can use all of those things to help me. The other thing that I can do, which gets back to that link I opened somewhere on my collection about ARDS, is what if there's a crisis? I don't have time, and maybe I don't have time to do the search I want to do. I just don't, because there's a crisis. That dog came in, or cat came in, she smells like electrocution, and she can't breathe. So I'm worried she's got non-cardiogenic edema. And so I need to know right away what's new. Oh, probably should spell it right. And then what I can do, is I want to know what is there, and is there like new unified stuff. So I'm going to do I can look at a clinical query, and in here I'm going to say it changed it again. My computer doesn't like that word. And I can say what is there, and acute non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema. These are under therapy, so I can broad, there's narrow, and it can tell me about different options. I can do, how do I diagnose it? And now you can hear my dogs and my 5-year-old having a little altercation. Sorry about that. And so I can work through this really, really quickly. This I have found to be most helpful when I'm dealing with human emergency situations, like you have a family member in trouble and they're turning to you because you're the medical professional. And that's how I got to this, which was a collection on really useful articles about ARDS when I had a family member with that. And so then I knew I was in no place emotionally to figure it out in the moment. So I got what I could in the moment, and I saved it in a collection for me to read the articles later when I wasn't on my iPhone. And there is a mobile version, and it works really pretty well. So those are really great things you can use in PubMed. Now, sometimes there's an article is in PubMed, but you cannot get it to come up. And you've typed in the authors, and it doesn't recognize them. Well, PubMed indexing isn't perfect. And so often a solution actually is to just type what you're looking for in Google or copy it. Like, let's say you're talking about a reference from a different paper, and so I can copy, if I find a paper, I should have done this a free full text. So I could find paper, and free full text means it's open access, and I'm going to click on it and I can get the whole article that way. And I can go to it right here, free full text. And that's going to be a direct link. And so once I've got that, then I'm going to be able to go wherever the article went. This was a fail. I can go to the article. So we want it in a different version. And I can take the other reference and I can say, well, I want that, and I keep searching, and I cannot find it in PubMed. I know it's there. And so I might copy it, or some part of it, and then go over and paste it into Google. And it will bring it up in PubMed. So it will show me where the thing that I know is in PubMed is hiding, and then I can click to PubMed that way. And that is because Google does an automated trolling of all of the words, and so its indexing is generally more robust. And so it can find things that in PubMed that PubMed can't find in PubMed. So that is something I really like as a back door to find things. Regular Google, so we're in regular Google, is also very helpful if I don't know what something is called or I don't know the best thing to call it to find it. And so I can put in lay terms into Google and use those lay terms in Google, or combinations of ways to describe things in Google to cause articles to pop up that tell me the words that I then want to use when I go back to PubMed. And so I love that about using regular Google. The other thing that regular Google does is if articles are open access, it has trolled the entire article. So it will find articles that are really relevant to you that can't be found in another way because it has trolled the whole article. It's been in the discussion, it's been in the results, whereas PubMed only goes into the abstract. There is also separately Google Scholar. And Google Scholar is really cool because, and I searched them separately, because it is going to give you the article, but down here, it is going to tell you everybody who has cited the article. This is obviously an incredibly powerful article. It's been cited over 11,000 times. Its impact factor is going to be off the charts. And so I can look into the future with this. So if I have some article on something that is older, like I found an article on a disease, but it's old and I can't find any new ones. And it might be an infectious disease and they've renamed the organism or they've renamed what they're calling it, like equine grass sickness. So I can take that one article and when I put it into Google Scholar, I can go forward in time and I go Shazam! And then I can find what's its new name? And I can take that and I can put it back into PubMed, or I can do it directly in Google Scholar. And this is an example. As colonic angiodysplasia has been renamed, it's now pretty much called telangiectasia. So this is from 1999. So then if I go to the citations, then under the citations, I discover that it has developed this new name of hereditary telangiectasia. And so then I can find all the new information instead of running into a wall where it suddenly changed names, like the artist formerly known as Prince, formerly noticed as the artist. So this is very, very helpful. I haven't had it, found it to be as robust or good as at doing all of my customized searches and collections, but honestly I probably haven't tried as hard as I'd like. I also like to use PubMed because I like to make sure that they have the data to support that that they need to keep spending money on it, because it's very, very helpful and valuable, and I don't want them cutting that from research funding or from federal funding. So, so that's another way that you can use this, and a nice feature of Google Scholar. This is also, the cited by thing is also how Web of Science works, but I'm not going to go over Web of Science because it is behind a paywall, i.e. you have to have paid to have membership. So what if you have an article, and I'm going to cheat here. I am going to go find one of mine because it'll be the easiest thing to do. That's pretty hilarious. I'm under clinical queries and it found some of mine. And I'm going to find something. So open access, open access, open access, open access. Hooray! I have worked very hard to come up with funding to only go open access. And this is these are just ones that I did diagnosis, so let's take that out. Let's make it a little broader. I gotta go back to when I'm older and I couldn't afford to do everything open access. So if we go back, here's an article that is not open access. So if you really wanted to know, does it matter whether you measure blood pressure on the leg or the tail, and you are not a member of AVMA, and this might go directly through because it knows, see that proxy up there? So it knows I'm in the that I'm at UT, and so because of that, it's going to let me have access. But if it didn't know that, then what would happen is it's going to pop up a paywall, and it's going to say that I need to pay money to get it. And so how do I get this article if I don't have the membership? And so that is where ResearchGate comes in. Because if you look at this, you don't know who you should email to ask for a copy of the article. And so if you don't have a way to get their email, because if I click on that, it just shows you things I've authored, it doesn't help you. So how do you figure out who you need to ask to give you help? Well, if you can get into a page like this, you'll see it says address correspondence to me. But if you can't, then you can be kind of stymied on how to get it. The other is, what if you address the correspondence to me, but I'm off hiking or something, and you really need the information now? Well, I am your weak link in getting back to you. So the alternative is to go into ResearchGate. And ResearchGate, like PubMed, is free. So if I log out, I was logged in, so we just go to main ResearchGate. It's free. Join for free. Join for free. You can connect with LinkedIn or Facebook. When you go in, this allows you to get to things that you were unable to get to elsewhere. So I don't know if this is going to work. We don't want a physicist, I think. We don't want political science. We don't want aerospace engineering. I'm looking for a veterinarian, mainly because I know he has an article that is not open access, so I was going to show you that. Let's go for somebody else and try. Oh, there he is. So there's Al. So I could go there because I saw he was on an article that was important. I should follow him. That I wanted. And so if it doesn't say full text available, then I can say, because see, this is open access, so it's full text available. This one, it doesn't say that. So I could click this button and it would send a message out to every single person on that paper who is in ResearchGate and say, hey, somebody would like this paper. Can you send them a copy? And when that happens, then what happens is the researcher gets something like this. Where's the received read messages? Here we go. They will say, I don't know how to find it, but it'll say, please, will you send me a copy of this article on tigers? And then I just click a button that says, send them the article. And then they go, yay, thank you for sending me the article. This is so helpful to me. And so, so I can do that even though I'm not first author on the tiger article. I'm on it, but I'm not first author or corresponding, but I can still help them out since the first author is busy doing something else at that time. And so this is a great way to get access to things that are behind a paywall. And so that is going to be in your homework. And we talked about Google. We talked about this. And we talked about, so we could do this guy here. So we could look for him. But I'm on that, so that won't work very well because it'll be like, why are you looking for your own stuff? I don't know. I forgot I wrote it. Okay, and that brings us last but not least to VIN. And VIN is behind a paywall, but it has a lot of features. And I think you get a year free after you graduate from vet school. So at least for a year you can use it without cost. So VIN has the message boards, and people use those like, I don't know what to do with this case. Please help me. Keep in mind, you're getting free advice, and so it is worth what you pay for it. Sometimes it is exceptional, and sometimes it is not, and you're not going to know which is which. And so this is not going to be where I'm going to start. VIN, when I'm searching those message boards, I'm searching the non-peer-reviewed resources, I'm trying to fill in gaps that I cannot fill in any other way. The information's too new, or it's too complicated or combined of a case. Well, I can't just apply those results because my patient has 2 other diseases and I need to know what to do with all 3 diseases, stuff like that. Other things that are in VIN that are super helpful is, in addition to having the boards, which are all right, they have a large number of proceedings that you can search. And proceedings, again, are not peer-reviewed, so they are very poor quality evidence, but Sometimes the papers aren't out yet because it can take as long as 3 years for a paper to come out once it's accepted. And so you've got this watch and wait time, or this gap. And so this will really help you to know that information if it's stuck somewhere in a journal that's slow to publication. And so that is really, really helpful. They have drug formularies, so you're not going based off of chicken scratch notes that you took in the past. And then, though I recommend that you have a real formulary, like Plum's, or I actually prefer Papich's book, because it's going to go over all of your details that you really need. But this is very, very good. They also have rounds that are hosted, and other resources on learning about cases, and they have cases that you can work through, diagnostic challenges and other cases. And if we go in here, 2 other really cool things I did not know about until the pandemic shut everything down, and so that just goes to show there's something good in everything, is they have these really killer medical videos for how to do things, so you can see how to do a good neuro exam, or how to do abdominocentesis, or how to do other procedures. There's a massive number of procedures there. There are clinics where you can practice taking care of cases without accidentally killing a real one. And you can learn all sorts of other different procedures here. You also, interestingly, just as an aside, I forgot to say when we did Google, is let's say, and this happened twice last week, I was doing consults, I had someone who was far away, and they had a dog that needed a laryngeal tieback, and they couldn't find a good description of how it was similar or different from horses, which is what they normally do. And so I put in laryngeal tieback, and then I went to videos, and I found multiple high quality, reputable videos walking through the procedure on a laryngeal tieback that I could then refer the vet to in order to confirm how it was the same versus different from in horses. And so there's lots of things you can learn or find here in videos anymore, just as a random aside. So that is kind of a review of places you can go and ninja hacks you can apply to find the most robust information to manage your cases. And so with that, we're going to go back over here, and we're going to wrap up. So here are your applications or your challenges. The first is that I want for you to each create a PubMed account, and then I want you to create a search relevant to your case, something you don't understand about your case or you need to figure out, like how do I diagnose blastomycosis, or how would we monitor blah blah, and using Boolean search terms, so using things like and, or, not, and wildcards like the asterisks, and that's relevant to your patient. This is going to be important so that you can work in a fast world. This is me self-isolating and working at home. Right now I'm on my phone here with 3 of our rats, and trying to work and concentrate while my mother is at a workstation set up here. My daughter is right over here working on her homeschooling work. My stepfather is in the room right next door over here teaching a lesson remotely, and my husband's around the corner in our bedroom in the office, which is where I am right now. And so I need to be able to do this while having a distracted focus. I'm going to use my search terms. So I want you to do that and then save that search so you'll be able to steal them in the future. I want you to pull 2 high quality open access articles that are relevant to your case so that you can learn more about the questions you had. You're going to want to write down the citation as well as the details. I want you to create a ResearchGate account so you are equipped and ready when you are out of here and you are not behind the paywall, and so that you can get to research that has been published in a non-open access manner. And then I want you to request a non-open access article that is related to your case so that you know how to do it when the time comes. And if you want, you can put it right in the message, because you can edit the request message and say, I am learning how to do this. I appreciate your help, something like that. Or it's Whittemore's fault. I always tell people, when in doubt, just say it's Whittemore's fault. So do that. And then your very last thing is that I want you to describe in your worksheet how the information you learned from those articles changed interpretation of your case or its management. And you're going to provide the citation so that that can be compared to understand how that applied. With that, I'm going to close off. I want to thank you for your time and attention, and I'm very hopeful that this digital clinical exposure experience will help you continue to grow and learn these skills you need to be efficient at finding information to help manage your patients once we're out of this, this pandemic situation. Please do the 5, only I've adapted it. Stay more than 6 feet apart. 6 feet. If you don't know what 6 feet is, go to your local Trader Joe's. They are keeping everyone 6 feet apart. Finally, if you are a veterinary educator, whether it be faculty, resident, or intern, and you would like to help participate in development of this catalog, please contact vice.rounds@gmail.com. I want to thank the amazing people of Florida, particularly Alex and Stacy Alvarez, for all they have done for developing this project. And I'll tell you, it's really easy to do, other than doing it at home with all the crazy animals and kids. But it's really easy to do, and I'm happy to help you as well. So let's all stick together. Let's all keep learning and growing, and you take care.